And welcome to another episode of that 401k podcast. Ary Rosenbaum here with Dan Venturi. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How's your week been?
Well, I've seen you a couple times this week. Stressful as always. We had a bit of not a snafu, but we had a bit of delay in getting the guest for our Arlington, Texas conference. But I'm proud. Well,
it ended very well.
Yeah, we were waiting on somebody who just didn't respond to phone calls or whatever it is, but proud to announce that Everson Walls is going to be the guest at our Arlington, Texas conference, which is just going to be 2 weeks from when this episode drops. AT&T Stadium, really great event. Hope everybody could attend. $100 gets you 4 hours of content, a stadium tour, which we're going to have to forego. We may have to do something with the podcast because the conference, we get to go on the field and they take a group picture at the 50-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm all booked for my trip. It's going to be exciting, and it's always a fun event. Everson Walls, I met in August. People forget he was also
a giant.
He was a giant. He was on the Super Bowl 25. So I met him in August as part of this big Super Bowl 21, Super Bowl 25 show of like 30-something odd giants that I met that day. And Everson Walls was one of them. So it's going to be great to see him again. Got some great content. So that's our last event, obviously, for 2019. 2020, we're going to talk about more in-depth when we're going to talk about our topic for this week. But go to that 401ksite.com to sign up. Again, we had the event at MetLife Stadium. That was a lot of fun. I mean, all the events are fun. They're all unique and different. Obviously, every stadium is a little bit different. You're an advisor. You're going to learn a lot. And more importantly, you're going to meet and network with a lot of people and, have some fun as well. Going to see us. You're going to have a stadium tour and a meet and greet with a former great like Everson Walls, who was a heck of a cornerback, interception-wise. I mean, the guy was always like, 7-8, interceptions a year. He was a pretty solid player.
If I remember right, he wasn't afraid to pop you, too.
No, he was, to me, he's up there. He's not in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's not in the Hall of Fame. I don't even think he's a finalist. He's somebody who I think he was an undrafted free agent. I'll have to look at we'll have to look at the notes before we see him. I always like to look and have questions for players. He was a heck of a defensive back. Of course, won a Super Bowl with the Giants. I think he was an undrafted free agent. So it's going to be great to see him again. And again, these events are a lot of fun. 2019, we already have some, scheduled for 2020. And again, go to that 401ksite.com to sign up. Our topic for this week is, talking about some retirement plan topics, retirement plan interests for 2020. Right now, as we record, Thanksgiving is upon us. When you hear this, Thanksgiving has already happened. There'll be Black Friday. Which I can't believe how quickly the year has gone by, even though, Thanksgiving's falling a little bit late this year. And I always right. And I always like these topics. I don't know, growing up as a kid, thinking about how life was going to be like in the 21st century. You always have these ideas. It's always funny to see what kind of people have predictions about what the future holds, and usually they were wrong about things. Sometimes they're right. I don't know if you ever seen AT&T did a bunch of commercials in the 1990s with Tom Selleck narrating them about things that you'll see in the future.
Wow.
And if you ever go onto YouTube, check them out, because most of what they predict in the 90s, I think they did this stuff in 93, 94. Most of the stuff actually happened. Streaming, buying tickets pretty quickly, that sort of thing. I think the only thing that didn't come true is, the ability to hold on to your medical records with, in a short amount of data space or whatever. That never really happened. But it's funny. But yeah, here we are in 2020 coming upon us, and we kind of predict as to, some of the stuff that's coming up. And of course, first things, talking about what's coming up in 2020. It's our podcast. We got a shill for our events in 2020. After December, we're going to take some time off because we have a national event at Walt Disney World at 401k National Conference, March 10th to 11th, 2020. Walt Disney World Swan, heck of a venue. Going to be 2 days, something very, very unique. There are a lot of great national conferences out there. We're going to be something different. Unique speakers, unique meet and greet opportunities with players, a lot of ample networking time. Something fun, something unique, something you can take the family to. I mean, so many times there'll be an event and, people will wait for their families. And I think March 10th to 11th might be is it a Tuesday, Wednesday? Something along the lines where, if you decide to come early, you got the weekend, you have, 5 or 6 days where you could get the discount hotel accommodations at Walt Disney World Swan. The opportunity to purchase Disney World tickets at 25 to 30% off. It's a great way to bring your family out, while they, go around the park for a couple days. You can have, a great experience learning a whole lot about the retirement plan business, new stuff, obviously new things out there. It's open up to TPAs and advisors. Normally our regional events are for advisors only, where the TPAs, obviously would sponsor and be a part of. Also open up to, auditors, all retirement plan professionals. So it's going to be a fun event, guaranteed. Then we resume our regional events. We take a break because of obviously the national event. We'll be back in April. I believe it's April 17th. We will be at Houston, Texas. So Minute Maid Park. We, obviously Dallas in November. But Dallas and Houston are nowhere near each other, at least driving time-wise. So it's going to be fun. Minute Maid Park, some of the Astros, or depending on, who you talk to, maybe the Asterix, if, you find out what's going on with the filming of stealing signs and such in 2017, 2018, 2019.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, so we'll find out. Probably by April, what the damage is to the Astros.
Someone was telling me last night that the batting average splits for like Altuve, Bregman, Correa, and Springer, right? So their big four, call it.
Yeah.
Was something like at home it was north of 400 their batting average, and on the road it wasn't it was it was on the interstate, but it wasn't quite Mendoza level. Right, so the high teens there on the road, but empirically, without all the stuff with the players coming out, that is highly suspect. Right?
It is, but you have allegations, and then one thing is to allege, and then when you see the video of the knocking, the sounds that are going on, I mean, it's quite obvious. And then of course there was some video. Was it from 2017 where you see the clubhouse and you see some equipment over there that obviously suggests how they were able to, send the signs over to the dugout. Listen, there's something going on over there. I think that, Major League Baseball is not going to, put that one under the rug. They, ever since 2017 with the Red Sox and the Yankees talking about the Apple Watch stuff, I really think that Manfred is going to, really, hit them with the hammer. People responsible probably could, it's possible they could be banned for life. I mean, I think they banned the general manager for the Braves a few years ago for violating international signings. He did something where he was playing around with it, and I think he was banned for life. So I wouldn't be surprised.
It was.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe not general manager, but, maybe if A.J. Hinch was involved, some serious suspensions. I mean, Sean Payton got a year for Bounty Gate. So, don't be surprised, if somebody like A.J. Hinch or whoever is going to be implicated gets a year or maybe a lifetime ban. We'll see. After April, May the 8th, we'll be in St. Louis, Gateway to the West, Busch Stadium. And, of course, that night, they're playing the Mets. I wonder how that happens. Um, and then I think it's June the 5th. We will be in Minneapolis, Target Field.
Great looking ballpark.
Great looking ballpark. Gives us the incentive to go to the Mall of America. I know that's been on my daughter's wish list for the last not dozen years. She is like 13. For like the last 7 or 8 years, that's where she's wanted to go. So hopefully we could make that happen. And then we're talking to some of the other venues. I think Seattle is going to be our date in September. We're talking to them. I got to look at the schedule. That we might actually have the events in the road teams clubhouse. I think that's how we might arrange it. October, Charlotte looks very, very solid. November is kind of up in the air. I kind of thought about Miami. I might think about something else, maybe out west. And then December, I'm really going to try hard for Las Vegas. One way or the other, we'll get to Vegas. I think that would be a very, very unique event because obviously Vegas is Vegas, and I think we'd get advisors around the country to attend if we come up with a really great event for that. So go to that 401ksite.com, sign up for all these events. We do have a band of people who do travel with us. From city to city for these events. Mike Webb, we always give a shout out to him. He can attest. You ask him, he'll tell you how much fun he has at these events and what he's learned. So,
hey, Bud, we got to come up with a name for our groupies.
I don't know.
Like Deadhead or Parrot Head or
401k heads. I don't know. Parrots.
Parrots are Buffett fans.
Yeah, I know.
Parrot heads are Buffett fans.
I know, which I don't get either. But we'll come up with something.
Fair enough.
The hardship gang. The ADP guys.
The what?
The ADP gang.
The ADP gang?
Yeah, actual deferral percentage. But then I wouldn't want to give a shout out to any payroll providers.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got that off our shilling. Of course, another topic and something that obviously is going to come up 2020 because people have been asking me this question since 2012, and that is the status of multiple employer plans. We had a discussion. Dan and I were in the city this morning meeting somebody, and the discussion obviously was about MEPs, and I was just telling the advisor that we had met that. It's been almost now 8 years since the Department of Labor put out their advisory opinion, which put the kibosh on open MEPs. And still to this day, we don't have really proper guidance that would really open up open MEPs again. The Department of Labor guidance, the regs that came out, didn't change anything. Still had commonality. Maybe it opened up commonality a little bit because we allowed regions to have as they're part of commonality. But open MEPs, we're still waiting on the Secure Act. Like I was telling the advisor today, I don't like writing articles about hypothetical legislation. To me, legislation is just proposed until it's passed and becomes a law. And the Secure Act is the same thing. The Secure Act, it passed the House. It's has been moving anywhere at the Senate. So obviously we don't have any type of new law that would open up open MEPs once and for all again. So obviously with 2020, it's an election year. Maybe that'll give the incentive for the incentive. Maybe we'll give the incentive to the Senate to act upon it. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll take a Senate election to get people moving. Maybe for 2021. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, I mean, even once the president signs it into law, if it ever gets to that point, you're still probably looking at a year or two out before it becomes effective, right? I mean, so it can be, we could be looking at 2023, 2024 before something actually is available in the marketplace.
Exactly. Law passes, and then, obviously, implementation dates usually are 1 or 2 years away. I think that when we had ECTRA, A lot of the changes, 2001, some of the changes didn't come into play until a year later, until 2002. Same thing with PPA. I think got a 2 year time. I think 2006 it got passed, and I don't think we started seeing Roth 401k and that kind of stuff for another 2 years, if I remember correctly. So it usually takes a while. So next, after the change with the MEPS, obviously in 2020 the hardship rules change. You get rid of the 6-month kickouts for deferrals and some other changes. That just means that obviously there's going to be an amendment that's going to be put in place. All plan sponsors need to put that in. Obviously, if 2019 they opted for the new rules, which they had that option, they'd have to put in a amendment for 2019. It makes hardship distributions easier, no longer needing the loan to show the hardship. You no longer have the 6-month kickout. Back in the day, it was a 12-month kickout. And, it makes it easier. Some will say it will make it easier for people to make distributions, hardship distributions, but I think I never liked the kick out. I think that obviously the deferral, allowing people to defer, suspending them, I think was a little bad, but obviously, hopefully that will change with the change in the hardship rules.
Yeah, it seemed like punitive. From my perspective, I don't think it's sort of I still don't know what they were trying to achieve, to be completely honest with you, in putting that in, right? I mean, a situation occurs, somebody needs to take a distribution, right? That should be it. What's the thought process? All right, maybe you know a little bit more about the history of it, but what's the thought process behind the kick out in the first place?
Well, I think the kick out was, if you could defer, then why do you need a hardship? So it's like if I take out a hardship distribution and then I, if I can defer day one, from that day on, do I really have a hardship? I mean, that's the same thing that why they had the loan quit, I think that that's really what it was. If you really don't have a hardship if you have money to defer. It's like, how could you be on food stamps if you have money to buy, beer or something, or buy luxurious items. I guess that's the same rationale too. So I think that really was it. And there was a 12-month suspension. I think in EGTRA it was cut down to 6. I think that's when it was done. So we have that to consider. Obviously, the fiduciary rule. Apparently, the Department of Labor one day will, come out with a rule, and put it in place. Hopefully, first they got to propose it. Then, of course, they'll be fighting about it. Fiduciary rule to me, nobody's going to be happy with it. I don't think people are happy with the last proposed rule that got withdrawn. I think advisors RIAs who are fiduciaries already don't like any, opportunity for the current fiduciary rule to be watered down. Obviously, brokers don't want to have a fiduciary role. That's not their job. Department of Labor has their view. So, whatever is going to happen, we're going to get a lot of fighting because that's what happens when the DOL proposes these rules.
That's what happened last time. It'll be no different this time.
Yep, exactly. Next on the list, obviously we've been talking about a lot of it, and we'll be talking about it again, is missing participants. Obviously, missing participants is a huge issue. Uncashed checks, that's another issue that, it goes hand in hand with missing participants. Department of Labor says they're going to obviously focus on it. So that means that plan sponsors really need to put a process in place to locate people. I just had I had an advisor email me today Well, we have an uncashed check situation. What do we do? Um, and the problem with the uncashed check, unlike the missing participant rules, we don't really have any guidance about what to do with uncashed checks. Until that time, you can't really take an uncashed check that's already been taxed and try to put it back into a 401k plan. Or you can't move it into a traditional IRA. Maybe you could move it into a Roth IRA, but obviously if they're above the limit, the cash out limit, you're probably limited as to moving into an IRA. Putting it in forfeitures, you run the risk that the participant will show up. And if you use forfeitures, you got to, reduce contributions, expenses, reallocate whatever you do. And if they pop up, you have to reinstate their forfeitures. Or you could do something where you escheat it to the state. In New York, we have the state controller's office. Other states, maybe it's a state treasurer and put the money there. But until we get any guidance, your guess is as good as mine as what to do. I don't think that from a tax standpoint, listen, I'm a tax attorney, got a tax LLM degree. You can't take money that was already taxed and try to just put it back in, maybe on a Roth feature. But if it's not a Roth deferral, it's just, to me, it creates a whole host of headaches. And until that time it's fixed, what are you going to do? but I think it's important that, that missing participants, the plan sponsor, put something in place that will actually make sure that, they, that they try to locate missing participants. You have the internet, you have these search engines that are kind of cheap. It's not hard to find people. Obviously, if they're deceased, that puts a wrinkle in things. But, you're going to have to eventually show in plan audits, you may actually have to show the Department of Labor, this is what I did, and this is how I tried to locate these people, and, all that kind of stuff. And last but not least on our list is, consolidation of the retirement plan business. We see 401k Help Center, it's 401k Help Center. That's my go-to place to find news and articles, and we see from time to time, especially in the TPA world, but also in the RIA world, advisory world, and even today with the news that Schwab's buying TD Ameritrade, we're always getting more and more consolidation in the business. The world of the retirement plan business is getting smaller and smaller, and that's a consideration for all of us as retirement plan providers. Listen, I'm an ERISA attorney. If there's only one or two places in the future to go to get 401k services, I may get squeezed out. As a plan provider, that's always a concern. But if you're in the TPA world, you're in the RIA world, it's going to take a lot of consolidation to only have a handful of players left. Look to what these big conglomerates are doing, or big consolidators are doing. And all I can say is do something unique and different, and you could really stand out.
Agreed. I mean, be the unicorn, right? I guess. Be special. Think about doing things differently. Think about, especially this business. We've done things the same way. You talk about the enrollment meeting all the time, Ary, but there's so many things that we've done the same. There's hardly any innovation in this industry. So I think both of us are pretty bullish on the future and seeing it innovate, right? Seeing the opportunities within sort of, the anticipated disruption. And I think, we're both pretty excited about that.
No, absolutely. Changes in this business, you can, Shawshank Redemption said it best: get busy living or get busy dying. And, with any change is opportunity. And it's just a matter, if you're not one of these people being bought out, or if you're not part of this big, conglomerate of the TPA or RIA or whatever it may be, it's an opportunity for you, and you just can't sit around and just cry about it. Look to what the competition is doing and just really do something different. So that's it for this week. We got a short episode this week. But anyway, like I said, let's go to that401ksite.com, sign up for these events. It's a whole lot of fun. Next week, we'll have another episode. I guess we'll record in Dallas, Arlington, Texas. So again, until next week, so long. Take care.